My son-in-law walked into my house and told me his parents were moving in tomorrow. I'm Daniel Mitchell, 71 years old, a retired pastor from Meadowbrook, Texas. Tyler had been circling my property like a vulture for months, but that Tuesday morning he finally showed his true colors. He stood in my living room, the same room where I had raised 47 foster children, and told me I was being moved to assisted living. The moving truck was already booked. My belongings would be packed by strangers. His parents needed space, and I was just taking up room that belonged to real family. What Tyler didn't know was that those 47 children had grown up. They'd become doctors, judges, CEOs, and military officers, and they were about to show him exactly what happens when you threaten the man who saved their lives. I watched Tyler lay out his timeline with math-like precision. Tuesday announcement, Friday packing, Saturday eviction. He planned my exile down to the hour. That's when I reached for my phone. If you're watching this, please subscribe and let me know where you're watching from. Because what happened next will restore your faith that family isn't about blood. It's about who shows up when it matters. By Saturday morning, my quiet street looked like a Fortune 500 parking lot, and Tyler was about to get the education of his lifetime. Tyler Brooks had been dismissing me for 3 years, ever since he married my daughter, Maris. From day one, he made it clear he didn't consider me real family. "It's not like you're her biological father," he'd say whenever Maris asked him to include me in family decisions. "You just happened to be there when she needed someone. Just happened to be there." Like raising a traumatized 7-year-old girl for 11 years was some kind of accident. Tyler saw what he wanted to see. A simple churchman driving a beat-up 2007 Honda Civic. Shopping at thrift stores. Living on a pastor's salary of $34,000 a year. He saw the modest ranch house I'd called home since 1994. 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, 1,800 square feet on a quiet street in Meadowbrook, Texas. What Tyler didn't see was the wall of graduation photos in my hallway. 237 pictures spanning 25 years. High school diplomas, college degrees, master's programs, medical school graduations, law school ceremonies. He walked past them at every family dinner, never asking questions. "Dan, you need to think about downsizing," he'd say, looking around my living room. "This place is too big for one person. My parents are getting older. They could really use the space." Maris would shoot him warning looks, but Tyler never backed down. "I'm not trying to be harsh," he'd continue, "but let's be practical. You're 71. You don't need 3 bedrooms. My dad's retiring next year, and their apartment lease is up. This house would be perfect for them. Perfect for them. Like I hadn't spent 30 years making it perfect for children who had nowhere else to go." Tyler assumed my quiet answers meant weakness when I'd say, "We'll see," or "Let me think about it." He'd exchange glances with his parents like it was already decided. Last month, he started getting bolder. "Maris is not even your real daughter," he said during Sunday dinner. "When you pass away, this house should go to actual family members who can appreciate it." Maris went pale. "Tyler, stop. I'm just being realistic. Your foster dad did his good deed, but biology matters. My parents raised 3 kids of their own. They understand what real family means." That night, Maris called me crying. "Dad, I'm so sorry. I don't know what's gotten into him." Dad, she'd been calling me that for 24 years. "Don't apologize for him, honey. You're not responsible for his choices." But Tyler wasn't finished. 2 weeks ago, he showed up unannounced with a real estate brochure. "I found you the perfect senior living community," he announced, spreading glossy photos across my kitchen table. "Sunset Gardens. It's only 15 minutes from the church. They have activities, meal plans, everything you need." "I'm not interested in moving, Tyler. Come on, be reasonable." You're rattling around in this big house by yourself. My parents could take over the mortgage payments, handle the maintenance. It's a win-win. I looked at those brochures for assisted living. Tiny studio apartments, shared dining rooms, activity schedules. Tyler saw a worn-out old man ready to fade away quietly. He had no idea he was talking to someone who had fought battles he couldn't imagine, who had saved lives he would never know about, who had built something far more valuable than he could understand. "I'll think about it," I said. Tyler smiled like he'd already won. That's when I knew it was time to make those phone calls, because Tyler was about to learn the difference between being alone and being surrounded by family. He was about to discover what 47 children look like when they grow up. And he was about to find out what happens when you threaten the man who saved their lives. But first, he had one more move to make. What Tyler didn't understand was that this house wasn't just my home. It was the heart of something much bigger than he could imagine. Since 1994, 47 children had walked through that front door. Some stayed for months, others for years. Every single one left knowing they were loved, wanted, and capable of greatness. The living room where Tyler wanted to put his parents' recliners. That's where Amanda Rodriguez did her homework every night for 4 years. She was placed with me at age 13 after being moved through 3 different homes. Nobody wanted a teenager with anger issues and failing grades. Last year, she finished her residency in pediatric surgery at Dallas Children's Medical Center, the kitchen where Tyler's mother planned to cook her Sunday roasts. That's where Marcus Williams learned to make pancakes at age 9. He came to me after his birth parents' rights were terminated. He was so scared of men that he hid in closets for the first month. Today, he's a federal judge in Washington, D.C. The master bedroom Tyler thought would be perfect for his parents. That's where Patricia Johnson recovered from pneumonia that almost killed her at age 12. She'd been in the system since age 5, bounced from home to home, and nobody wanted to deal with her medical needs. She's now the CEO of a tech company worth $40 million. Every room held memories Tyler couldn't see. Every corner represented a life changed, a future saved, a child who learned they mattered. But it wasn't only about the past. This house was still active, still doing its job. 3 months ago, I got an emergency placement. 8-year-old Emma Chen, whose parents died in a car accident. She had no relatives who could take her, and the state needed a temporary home while they searched for a permanent family. She was sleeping in what Tyler called the spare bedroom. To her, it was the first place she'd felt safe since losing her parents. If I give up this house, I thought, where does Emma go? Where do future children go when they need shelter? Tyler saw empty rooms his parents could fill. I saw a lifeline that had saved 47 lives and was still saving more. The money part was clear, too. My 30-year mortgage was almost paid off. Only $18,000 left on a house now worth $280,000. Tyler's parents would basically get a $250,000 asset for the cost of 18 months' rent. But the real stakes were deeper than money. For 30 years, this house had been the gathering place for my family. Every Christmas, every Thanksgiving, every graduation party, every wedding celebration, everything happened here. The kids who grew up and moved away still came home to this address. Last Christmas, 23 of my adult children came to Meadowbrook. Doctors flew in from Seattle. Lawyers drove down from Chicago. Teachers came from California. The house was packed with successful adults who still called me dad, who still saw this as their family home. Tyler wanted to erase all of that for his parents' convenience. There was another piece Tyler couldn't see: my foster care license. Texas gave me an emergency placement license that let me take children on short notice, like Emma. That license was tied to this exact address, to this house that had been inspected and approved again and again for 3 decades. If I gave up the house, I'd lose the license. No more emergency placements. No more safe place for children who desperately needed one. Tyler was asking me to abandon my calling, shut down a 30-year mission, and push out a traumatized 8-year-old girl. Also, his parents could have a bigger living room. The emotional stakes were the heaviest of all. Maris had been my first adoption. Her birth parents lost custody when she was 7, and she spent 6 months in emergency foster care before coming to me. She was so hurt by neglect and abuse that she barely spoke for the first year. I spent 11 years proving to her she deserved love, that she mattered, that someone would fight for her no matter what. Now her husband was telling her our bond meant nothing, that blood was the only thing that counted, that I was disposable. If I backed down, if I let Tyler's dismissal stand, what would that tell Maris? What would it tell all my children? That everything we built together meant nothing? That love and commitment were temporary conveniences? The stakes weren't just about keeping a house. They were about protecting a legacy, defending a family, and proving that some things are too precious to give up without a fight. Tyler thought he was dealing with a weak old man who would fold under pressure. He was about to learn how wrong he was. October 15th arrived like any other Sunday. Maris had invited Tyler's parents over for dinner after church, and I made my usual pot roast with vegetables from my small garden behind the house. Tyler's father, Robert Brooks, was a decent man, a retired insurance adjuster who worked 40 years for the same company. His mother, Linda, had been a school secretary before arthritis forced her to retire early. They weren't bad people, just people who raised their kids to believe biological family comes first. We were sitting around my dining room table when Tyler made his move. "Dad, Mom," he said to his parents, "I've been talking to Dan about his housing situation." Maris tensed immediately. She knew that tone. Tyler pulled out a manila folder and set it on the table between the mashed potatoes and green beans. "Dan's been thinking about downsizing, haven't you?" He looked at me with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "This house is really too much for one person to manage." "Tyler," Maris warned quietly, "let me finish, honey. This affects everyone." Tyler opened the folder and spread out papers like he was pitching a business deal. "I've done some research on senior living communities. There are several excellent options within 15 minutes of here." Robert Brooks shifted uncomfortably. "Son, we never asked." "You don't have to ask, Dad. Family takes care of family." Tyler's voice had that tone he used when explaining obvious things to slow people. "Dan understands the situation. He's lived here alone for 3 years since his last foster placement ended. It's time for practical decisions." I watched him lay out brochures for assisted living. Sunset Gardens, Golden Years Community, Peaceful Meadows Retirement Village. Each one showed smiling elderly people playing chess, doing crafts, eating cafeteria meals in bright dining rooms. "The beauty of this arrangement," Tyler continued, "is that everyone benefits. Dan gets the care and social interaction he needs. You two get a beautiful home with 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, and no mortgage payments. The house stays in the family." He paused on that last phrase like it was the whole point. "The house stays in the family." "Real family," his tone said. Maris's fork clinked against her plate. "Tyler, we haven't discussed this." "We don't need to discuss it, sweetheart. Sometimes adults have to make hard decisions." Tyler turned to his parents. "I already contacted Sunset Gardens. They have openings next month." Linda Brooks looked at me with real concern. "Daniel, is this what you want? You've been in this house for 30 years. Before I could answer, Tyler jumped in. "He's been thinking about it for months, Mom. Haven't you, Dan?" His eyes dared me to disagree. "Face facts. You're not Maris's real father. When you're gone, this house would naturally go to her and then to us. We're just speeding up the process while everyone benefits." The silence that followed was crushing. Maris's face went white. "Tyler, how dare you? How dare I what? Tell the truth. Tyler's mask was slipping now, showing the arrogance underneath. I'm not trying to be cruel, but let's be realistic. Dan did a nice thing taking you in, but that doesn't make him family. Blood makes family. Biology makes family. Real parents who sacrifice for their biological children make family. Robert Brooks cleared his throat. Son, that's not. Dad, please. I'm handling this. Tyler turned back to me with the patience of someone explaining a simple idea to a child. Dan, you raised Maris, and we're grateful. But she's married now. She has a real family to think about. My parents are getting older. They need help. You need care. It's perfect timing. I set down my fork and looked at the man who had sat at my table for 3 years, eaten my food, celebrated holidays in my home, accepted my kindness, while planning to take it all away. Tyler, I said softly, when you say real family, what exactly do you mean? He blinked, surprised. I mean people who are actually related, people with shared genetics, natural family bonds. I see. And the people in those pictures on my wall, the graduates, the wedding photos, the Christmas cards from 23 states, they're not real either. They're nice memories, Dan, but they're not family. They were temporary placements. You did your good deed, but now it's time to think practically. Maris stood up fast. I can't listen to this. Sit down, honey. Let the adults finish talking. Tyler didn't even look at her. His eyes stayed on me. Dan, I've prepared the paperwork. The moving truck can be here Tuesday morning. Sunset Gardens is expecting you Wednesday. Clean, simple transition. The moving truck, I repeated slowly. Tuesday at 9 a.m. I already booked it. Tyler smiled like he had just solved everything. 3 days should be enough time to pack what you want to keep. The furniture can stay with the house. That's when I realized Tyler hadn't just planned this talk. He had planned the takeover. He had already decided my life, my home, my future, without ever asking what I wanted. He assumed I was too old, too weak, too unimportant to resist. I signed every report card for 12 years, I said quietly. Tyler shrugged. That doesn't make you family. Blood does. I looked at this man who had just dismissed 30 years of my life, 47 children I raised, and the love I poured into his wife. Then I smiled. I understand completely, Tyler. Let me make some phone calls. The slight satisfaction in Tyler's eyes told me everything. He thought he had won. He had no idea what was coming. After dinner, Tyler and his parents left with smug satisfaction. They had finished their mission, or so they thought. The moving truck was scheduled, the assisted living facility was expecting me, and the house transfer seemed unavoidable. Maris stayed behind, pacing my living room like a caged animal. Dad, I'm so sorry. I had no idea he was planning this. Tears ran down her face. I can't believe he said those things about you, about our family. It's not your fault, sweetheart. But it is. I married him. I brought him into our lives. And now he's trying to take away everything that matters to you. I hugged my daughter. My real daughter, papers or not, and felt her shoulders shake with anger and grief. Don't worry about Tyler, I said. He doesn't understand what he's dealing with. What do you mean? I walked to my desk and opened the bottom drawer, the one I usually kept locked. Inside were business cards, letters, photos, and documents Tyler had never bothered to look at. Remember Dr. Rodriguez? Maris's eyes lit up a little. Amanda, of course. She lived with us for 4 years. I handed her a card. Dr. Amanda Rodriguez, Pediatric Surgery, Dallas Children's Medical Center. The card was expensive, thick paper, raised letters, the kind that showed real status. She sent this last month with her Christmas card. She wanted me to have her direct number in case I ever needed anything. I pulled out another card. Judge Marcus Williams, Federal District Court, Washington, D.C. Maris's eyes widened. Marcus, little Marcus who used to hide in closets. 26 years old now. Youngest federal judge in Texas history. Another card. Patricia Johnson, CEO, Innovate Tech Solutions. The cards kept coming. Dr. Stephen Murphy, orthopedic surgeon, Seattle General Hospital. Professor Janet Richardson, Harvard Law School. Detective Lieutenant Carlos Santos, Dallas Police Department. Captain Maria Gonzalez, United States Air Force. Dad, Maris whispered. What are all these? Christmas cards, sweetheart. Thank you notes. Graduation announcements. Wedding invitations. 47 successful adults who still send me updates about their lives. I opened a folder of photos. Graduations, weddings, family portraits with children and grandchildren I had never met, but who had been told stories about Grandpa Dan. Look at this one. I handed Maris a photo from last Christmas. 23 adults packed into my living room, wearing matching shirts that said Team Mitchell. They had them made for our family reunion. Maris stared at the photo, amazed. I remember some faces, but they all look so successful, so professional. Success was always the goal. Every child who came through that front door heard the same thing. You matter. You're capable of greatness. And education is your ticket anywhere you want to go. My phone rang. I looked at the caller ID. Dr. Rodriguez. Answer it, Maris urged. Amanda, sweetheart. How are you? Dad. Her voice had the same excitement she had at 15 when she got an A on a hard exam. I got your message about needing to talk. What's going on? Just some family business I need to handle. Nothing urgent. Family business? Who's giving you trouble? The protective edge in her voice was unmistakable. My son-in-law thinks it's time for me to move to assisted living. The silence on the other end felt dangerous. He thinks what? He arranged everything. Moving truck Tuesday. New apartment Wednesday. Dad, do you want to move? Not particularly. Another silence. Then give me his name and number. I need to have a conversation with this man. That's not necessary, Amanda. I can handle... Dad. Her voice carried the command of someone used to life and death choices in an operating room. Give me his information. And call Marcus and Patricia. This needs immediate attention. When I hung up, Maris looked at me with a mix of awe and fear. Dad, what just happened? I think Tyler's about to get an education in what real family looks like. The next Wednesday was our church's monthly potluck dinner. First Baptist Church of Meadowbrook had been my spiritual home for 30 years, and those gatherings were always special to me. More than 40 church members would bring covered dishes and gather in the fellowship hall to share food and stories. Tyler knew how important those nights were to me. That's why he picked this moment for his cruelest attack. I was serving green bean casserole to Mrs. Peterson from the third pew when Tyler walked in with his parents. They had never come to a church function before, but tonight they looked like they had a mission. Tyler wore his best suit and carried a manila folder, the same folder from Sunday dinner, but thicker now. His parents stood beside him like backup, faces set hard. Attention, everyone, Tyler announced, his voice cutting through the friendly talk. I have an announcement to make. The hall went quiet. 43 people turned to look at the man who had interrupted their meal. Pastor Williams, the pastor who took over after I retired, stepped forward, concerned. Tyler, is everything all right? Actually, Pastor, I'm glad you're here. This concerns the whole congregation. Tyler opened his folder with dramatic flair. As many of you know, Dan Mitchell has been living alone for several years now. At 71, he's reached the point where he needs professional care. Murmurs moved through the room. I saw confusion on familiar faces, People who had known me for decades, who watched me raise child after child, who had never seen signs of failing health or a failing mind. Now, I know this is hard to talk about, Tyler continued, voice dripping with fake sympathy. But sometimes families have to make hard decisions. Dan's been generous with his time and his home, but it's time for real family to step up. Mrs. Henderson, who taught Sunday school for 40 years, raised her hand carefully. Tyler, dear, Dan seems perfectly capable of handling his own affairs. Ma'am, with respect, you see him a few hours on Sundays. I live with this reality every day. Tyler pulled out documents, medical brochures, assisted living pamphlets, legal papers I had never seen. My parents need housing. Dan needs professional care. It's the perfect solution. Robert Brooks shifted uncomfortably. Son, maybe this isn't the right place. Dad, please. The church community needs to understand the situation. Tyler's voice grew louder, more confident. He was feeding off the attention. For 3 years, I've been watching Dan struggle with basic household maintenance, bill paying, social isolation. He's been living in a 3-bedroom house by himself, holding on to space that could benefit a real family. That phrase again, real family. Deacon Miller, who had known me since I first came to Meadowbrook, stood up slowly.
Tyler, I'm confused.
Dan serves on 3 church committees. He teaches Bible study every Wednesday. He volunteers at the food bank. What exactly are you seeing that we're not? Tyler smiled like a teacher talking to a slow student. Respectfully, sir, you're seeing what Dan wants you to see. The truth is he's no longer Maris's legal guardian. His foster care days are over. He served his purpose, and now it's time for him to step aside gracefully. The temperature in the room felt like it dropped 10 degrees. Furthermore, Tyler said, bolder now in the shocked silence, I think it's important everyone understands that Dan's relationship with Maris was always temporary. Foster care is a service, not a permanent family bond. She has a real family now. Me, my parents, and someday our children. Dan's been generous, but biological family has to come first. Maris, who had been silent until now, finally spoke. Tyler, stop, please. Honey, I know this is emotional for you, but someone has to speak the truth. Tyler turned back to the church. I've arranged professional care for Dan at Sunset Gardens. My parents will take over his house, ensuring it stays within the actual family structure. The transition happens this weekend. He said it like he was announcing a bake sale. Already decided. No discussion. Pastor Williams looked shocked. Tyler, this seems like something that should be discussed privately. Pastor, I appreciate your concern, but sometimes private discussions don't work. Dan's been resistant to change, which is understandable. Elderly people often struggle with transitions, but I have a responsibility to my wife and my parents to make practical decisions. That's when Mrs. Henderson stood up, 5 feet of pure anger. Young man, I've known Daniel Mitchell for 30 years. I watched him raise 47 children nobody else wanted. I've seen him at hospital bedsides, graduation ceremonies, and wedding altars. Don't you dare stand in our church and tell us he's not real family to those children. A wave of agreement moved through the room. Tyler's mask slipped, irritation showing. Ma'am, I understand your emotional attachment to Dan's service, but emotion doesn't change biology. Those children were temporary placements, service projects, good deeds. They've moved on with their lives. Maris is married now. It's time for realistic decisions about the future. Deacon Miller's face turned red. Son, you're talking about a man who gave his life to children in need. Show some respect. I am showing respect. Tyler snapped, voice rising. I'm respecting reality. I'm respecting the fact that my parents raised 3 biological children and deserve consideration. I'm respecting the fact that blood relatives should have priority over temporary arrangements. The room erupted into angry whispers. Faces I had known for decades showed shock, confusion, and rising anger. Tyler shouted over the noise. I know this is uncomfortable, but someone has to say it. Dan played a nice role in Maris's childhood, but playtime is over. Adult responsibilities require adult decisions. The moving truck comes Saturday morning. Saturday morning. He moved up the timeline. Pastor Williams tried to calm things down. Tyler, I think we need to table this. There's nothing to discuss, Pastor. The arrangements are made. The paperwork is signed. Dan understands this is best for everyone. All eyes turned to me. 43 people who had known me for 3 decades, waiting to see what I'd do. Would I argue? Would I defend myself? Would I fall apart under the weight of Tyler's lies? I stood slowly, feeling every year, every child I raised, every battle I fought to give broken kids a chance. Tyler's right about one thing, I said quietly. It's time for realistic decisions. Tyler smiled, proud. He thought I was giving in. I need to make some phone calls, I continued, and I think this congregation is about to see what real family actually looks like. The smile faded from Tyler's face. Because you're right, Tyler. Playtime is over. Thursday morning, my phone started ringing at 6 a.m. Dad, I just got off a conference call with Marcus and Patricia. Amanda's voice had the crisp speed of someone who coordinates emergencies. We're mobilizing the family. Amanda, you don't need to. Dad, stop. This isn't negotiable. Nobody, and I mean nobody, disrespects you like that and walks away clean. Over the next hour, more calls came. Marcus from Washington, his federal judge authority clear even through the phone. Patricia from Silicon Valley, already planning logistics with CO precision. Dr. Stephen Murphy from Seattle, arranging to fly in Friday night. By noon, my quiet house had become mission control for an operation I didn't order, but couldn't stop. Dad, we need a full list, Amanda said on her third call. Everyone who can travel needs to know what's happening. Honey, this is between Tyler and me. You all have your own lives, our own lives. Patricia cut in from California. Dad, you gave us our lives. Every success we have started in that house, with you believing in us when nobody else did. Marcus joined in from his DC office. Patricia's right. Amanda, what's the timeline? Tyler announced Saturday morning for the move. I'm thinking we arrive Friday evening. Full family presence Saturday morning. Agreed. I can get 17 people from the East Coast. Patricia, what about your numbers? 12 from California and the Northwest. Stevens coordinating another 8 from the Midwest. I listen to my children, my real children, adoption papers or not, plan a response with military-level precision. These weren't the broken kids who came to me long ago. These were adults with power, resources, and fierce loyalty. Friday afternoon, the first cars arrived. Dr. Amanda Rodriguez pulled up in a silver Mercedes at 3 p.m., still in scrubs from morning surgery. She hugged me like she was 15 again. All professional calm melting into pure daughter love. Where is he, Dad? He's at work, I assume. Amanda, you didn't have to drive all the way from Dallas. Dallas is 2 hours. I've flown farther for smaller emergencies. She looked around my house with the same sharp eyes she used in an operating room. This place looks exactly the same. God, the memories. Judge Marcus Williams arrived 20 minutes later in a black town car with government plates. At 35, he carried quiet authority that would have been impossible to imagine in the terrified 9-year-old who hid in my closets for a month. Dad. His hug was fierce, protective. I reviewed Texas property law on the drive. What Tyler's trying has zero legal standing. Do you want me to shut this down with paperwork? Let's see what tomorrow brings first. By 6 p.m., my driveway looked like a luxury dealership. Mercedes, BMW, Lexus, Tesla, cars worth more than most people's houses. Neighbors started staring. Dr. Stephen Murphy flew in from Seattle on a private jet, arriving with his wife, Jennifer, and their twin daughters. "Dad, the girls wanted to meet their grandfather," he said, lifting two 8-year-olds who called me Grandpa Dan, even though they had never met me. Professor Janet Richardson from Harvard arrived with her husband and teenage son. Detective Lieutenant Carlos Santos drove down from Dallas in his own truck, still carrying the quiet intensity that made him one of the department's most respected investigators. Captain Maria Gonzalez arrived in full dress uniform, having taken emergency leave from her Air Force base. CEO Patricia Johnson stepped out of a chauffeur-driven SUV, looking like she had walked off the cover of Fortune magazine. By 8 p.m., 23 adults and 12 children filled my modest house. The same living room Tyler wanted for his parents' recliners now buzzed with surgeons, lawyers, professors, business leaders, and military officers. But they weren't showing off their success. They were sharing memories. "Remember when Dad taught us to change oil in the driveway?" Carlos laughed, pointing to the same concrete where his police truck now Saturday. "I was 16 and sure I'd never need that stuff. He made all of us learn basic car maintenance," Amanda added. "He said independence starts with not depending on others for simple repairs." Marcus nodded. "Same with budgeting. Every Friday night, financial lessons at the kitchen table. You can't build wealth if you don't understand money," he'd say. Patricia pulled out her phone and showed pictures of her company headquarters. "Dad, I named the main conference room after you, the Daniel Mitchell Innovation Center. Your quote about believing in impossible things is on the wall in bronze letters." These weren't just successful adults remembering childhood. These were grateful children honoring the man who saved their lives, shaped their character, and gave them tools to become extraordinary. Maris moved through the crowd in disbelief. She had known some of these siblings growing up, but seeing them as accomplished adults was overwhelming. "Patricia, I can't believe you run a company worth $40 million. Patricia smiled. "Dad always said we could be great. He just made us believe it ourselves." Dr. Murphy studied the family photos on my wall, the same ones Tyler dismissed as meaningless. "Dad, you should have seen the hospital when I told them why I took emergency leave. 3 other doctors wanted to come support you. You have grandkids all over the country who see this house as sacred." As the night went on, the talk turned serious. "So what's the plan for tomorrow?" Amanda asked. Judge Williams leaned forward like he was in court. "Simple. Tyler expects to find a weak-old man ready to surrender his house. Instead, he'll find 47 successful adults who call that man their father and call this house their family home." "What time did he say the moving truck would arrive?" Patricia asked. 9 a.m. Captain Gonzalez checked her watch with military precision. "Perfect. We'll be in place by 8:30. Full family presence. Professional clothes. Peaceful, but unmistakable message." Carlos nodded. "I like it.
No threats, no drama.
Just the truth standing in his driveway." "The truth being?" Maris asked. "That Dad didn't raise 47 children," Marcus said softly. "He raised 47 adults who protect their family." Amanda stood, looking around at her siblings. Tyler wanted to know what real family looks like. Tomorrow morning, he gets his education. By 10 p.m., most of my children checked into hotels, but a few insisted on sleeping in the house. Amanda took her old room. Marcus slept on the living room couch he claimed 25 years ago. Patricia set up a laptop in the kitchen to handle West Coast business calls. It felt like Christmas morning, except instead of opening presents, We were preparing to defend our home. As I lay in bed listening to my children's voices drift through the house, I realized Tyler had made one huge mistake. He saw a lonely old man in a house too big for one person. What he didn't see was the heart of a family spread across 23 states. Doctors, judges, CEOs, professors, military officers, and law enforcement. People who had spent decades proving love matters more than blood. Tomorrow morning, Tyler would learn the difference between being alone and being surrounded by family. Tomorrow morning, he'd see what 47 successful adults look like when they stand together. Tomorrow morning, he'd find out what happens when you threaten the man who saved their lives. Saturday morning arrived crisp and clear. I woke at 5:30 to the smell of coffee and bacon. Amanda was already in the kitchen cooking breakfast like she did as a teenager. "Big day, Dad. You ready for this?" I looked out the window at my driveway. By 8 a.m., everything had changed. 47 luxury vehicles lined both sides of Meadowbrook Street. Mercedes sedans, BMW SUVs, Tesla Model S cars, Lexus hybrids, a fleet worth more than $3 million, forming a corridor of success leading to my front door. But the cars were only the beginning. 47 adults in professional clothes stood in perfect formation across my front lawn. Dr. Amanda Rodriguez in her white coat, stethoscope around her neck. Judge Marcus Williams in a charcoal suit that cost more than most people's monthly paycheck. CEO Patricia Johnson in executive clothing that screamed Fortune 500 boardroom. Captain Gonzalez had organized them by profession with military precision. Medical on the left, legal in the center, business on the right, teachers and public servants filling the gaps. Each person held a small sign with their name and title. Dr. Stephen Murphy, Chief of Orthopedic Surgery. Professor Janet Richardson, Harvard Law School. Detective Lieutenant Carlos Santos, Dallas PD. Major General Patricia Davis, U.S. Army Reserves. CEO Michael Thompson, Thompson Industries. 47 signs. 47 success stories. 47 lives that began in the house behind them. At 8:45, neighbors started stepping outside. Mrs. Peterson across the street stood on her porch in amazement. The Williams family next door gathered at their front window. Word spread through the neighborhood. Something incredible was happening at Dan Mitchell's house. At 8:57, Tyler's pickup turned onto Meadowbrook Street. I watched from my window as his confident face turned to confusion, then shock, then something close to panic. He had to park 3 blocks away. The street was packed with luxury vehicles. Tyler walked slowly toward my house, looking left and right at the impossible scene. His parents followed him. Robert Brooks clutched the lease papers for Sunset Gardens. Linda Brooks stared at the crowd in growing amazement. The moving truck rounded the corner at exactly 9 a.m., then stopped cold. The driver couldn't get within 200 yards of my house. Tyler reached my property line and stopped. 47 pairs of eyes watched him with the focused calm of people used to high-stakes moments. Dr. Rodriguez stepped forward, her voice carrying the calm authority of someone who delivers life-changing news to families. "You must be Tyler Brooks." Tyler's mouth opened and closed like he couldn't breathe. What is this?"
I'm Doctor.
Amanda Rodriguez, Chief of Pediatric Surgery at Dallas Children's Medical Center. She motioned to the crowd behind her. "These are my brothers and sisters." Judge Williams stepped beside her. Marcus Williams, Federal District Court, Washington, D.C. CEO Johnson joined them. Patricia Johnson, Innovate Tech Solutions. One by one, 47 successful adults introduced themselves. Each name, each title, each achievement hit Tyler like a punch. Dr. Michael Chun, Cardiothoracic Surgery, Mayo Clinic. Professor Maris Davis, MIT Engineering Department. Colonel James Rodriguez, U.S. Air Force. CEO Jennifer Murphy, Murphy Construction, $200 million in annual revenue. Tyler's face bounced between confusion, disbelief, and growing horror as the truth became impossible to deny. We understand, Amanda continued, that you have questions about our father's living situation. Your father, Tyler's voice cracked. Daniel Mitchell, she said. The man who raised us, the man who saved our lives, the man you think should be moved to assisted living so your parents can have his house. The group shifted slightly, a small movement that somehow made them look even more powerful. Marcus Williams opened a leather portfolio. I reviewed your proposal, Mr. Brooks. Legally speaking, it's fascinating. You want to remove a competent adult from his home based on what exactly? He's old. He lives alone. Your parents need, Patricia Johnson said, her CEO voice sharp as ice. Let me tell you what our father needs. He needs respect for the 30 years he spent raising society's forgotten children. He needs recognition for the 47 lives he saved. He needs acknowledgement that love and sacrifice matter more than biology. Tyler looked toward the moving truck, still blocked 3 blocks away. You don't understand. Maris is my wife. This is a family matter. You're absolutely right, Amanda said. This is a family matter. She motioned to the crowd. 47 children, 12 grandchildren, 3 great-grandchildren. All of us consider Dan Mitchell our father and this house our family home. But you're not really what? Colonel Rodriguez stepped forward, military posture unmistakable. Not really family? I've called this man Dad for 22 years. He walked me down the aisle at my wedding. My kids call him Grandpa. What part of that isn't real? Tyler's parents went pale. Linda Brooks whispered, Robert, what have we done? Dr. Murphy spoke to Tyler's parents. Mr. and Mrs. Brooks, I don't think you understand what your son was asking Dan to give up. This house isn't just a building. It's the heart of a family that stretches across the country. Every Christmas, every Thanksgiving, every celebration happens here. This is where broken kids learned they were worthy of love. We didn't know, Robert Brooks stammered. Tyler told you as Dan was alone, that he needed care. Does he look like he needs care? Professor Richardson asked, gesturing toward me as I stepped out onto my front porch. I walked down and joined my children, and they parted so I could stand in the center of their protective line. Tyler, I said softly, I believe you wanted to discuss my housing situation. Tyler looked at the 47 successful adults surrounding him, the luxury cars lining the street, the neighbors watching, the moving truck stuck far away. This is exactly what it is, Amanda said firmly. This is what happens when you threaten our father. This is what real family looks like. Tyler's mouth moved, but no sound came out. The moving truck driver walked toward us, clipboard in hand, looking completely confused. Sir, the driver called to Tyler. We can't get to the house. Should we reschedule? Tyler looked at the driver, then the crowd, then me. The weight of his mistake crushed him. Cancel it, he whispered. What was that? Judge Williams cupped his ear dramatically. Cancel the truck, Tyler said, voice breaking. Cancel everything. The change was complete. The confident man who demanded my house 3 days ago had been reduced to a trembling shell by one simple thing: the presence of my family. My real family, the one that mattered. The aftermath of Tyler's public humiliation spread through Meadowbrook like fire. By noon Saturday, the story was all over social media. Someone filmed the whole confrontation, and the video went viral within hours. Foster Dad's 47 successful children defend family home hit 50,000 views on the first day. The comments were full of support. This is what real family looks like. Foster parents are heroes. That son-in-law got what he deserved. But the consequences went far beyond internet fame. Monday morning, Tyler showed up at Brooks Construction, his father-in-law's company, where he worked as a project supervisor, and found a pink slip on his desk. "I'm sorry, son," Robert Brooks told him, voice heavy with disappointment. "After seeing what you tried to do to that good man, I can't have you representing our family business. The church renovation contract was our biggest project this year. Now they won't even return my calls." First Baptist Church of Meadowbrook did cancel their $250,000 renovation contract. Pastor Williams made it clear that anyone who would publicly embarrass a respected member wasn't welcome on church property. But the money consequences were only the start. Tyler's marriage broke immediately. Maris moved back into my house that Saturday, bringing Emma Chun with her. The 8-year-old foster child watched the whole scene from the upstairs window, and Maris wasn't going to let her feel abandoned again. "I can't be married to someone who would treat you like that," Maris told me through tears. "Tyler showed me who he really is, and I don't like what I see." Marriage counseling lasted exactly 2 sessions. Tyler spent both trying to defend himself, claiming he was being practical and realistic about family priorities. The therapist noted his total inability to admit wrongdoing or show real remorse. Divorce papers were filed within 6 weeks. But the hardest consequence was social. Tyler had lived in Meadowbrook his whole life, but after the confrontation, he became a pariah. Everyone in town had seen the video. His attempt to push out a beloved pastor and steal his house made him infamous. The barber shop where he'd gotten haircuts for 20 years suddenly had no openings. The diner where he ate lunch every Friday told him they were fully booked. Even the gas station where he'd been a loyal customer treated him with cold politeness. Linda Brooks was humiliated. She had been active in the church auxiliary for 15 years. But after the potluck, she couldn't face her friends. The shame of her son's public cruelty was too much. "I raised him better than this," she told me in a tearful phone call. "Robert and I are moving to Florida to be near my sister. We can't stay here after what Tyler did." The ripple effects hit Tyler's extended family too. His brother in Houston cut him off completely. His cousins in Dallas stopped inviting him to family gatherings. The annual Brooks family reunion, 40 years of tradition, was canceled because nobody wanted Tyler there, but nobody wanted to officially say he wasn't welcome. 3 months later, Tyler left Meadowbrook. He moved to Austin where no one knew him and tried to start over, but the video followed him. Employers Googled his name and found the story. Dating apps turned into awkward talks when women recognized him. Meanwhile, the good results for my real family were extraordinary. The viral video led to donations for our local foster care program of over 100,000. 3 other families in Meadowbrook applied for foster care licenses. Inspired by our story, Emma Chen, the 8-year-old who saw everything, started calling me Grandpa Dan. Her adoption was finalized 4 months later, making her officially child number 48. And every Sunday at church, when Pastor Williams asked for testimonies about God's faithfulness, someone would mention the morning when 47 adults stood on my lawn to defend their father. Tyler wanted to prove blood makes family. Instead, he proved the opposite. Love makes family. Choice makes family. Sacrifice makes family. Blood is just biology. Family is everything else. 6 months later, I was working in my garden when a familiar truck pulled into my driveway. Tyler stepped out slowly, his confidence replaced by something that looked like humility. He had lost weight, gained gray hair, and moved like a man who had learned hard lessons. "Dan, can we talk?" I set down my pruning shears and looked at the man who once tried to take everything from me. "What's on your mind, Tyler? I owe you an apology. A real one." His voice shook a little. "I was wrong about everything, about family, about you, about what matters. I let greed and pride convince me I deserved something that wasn't mine. I appreciate that, Tyler. Could there ever be a chance for me to earn forgiveness from Maris? From you. I looked at this broken man and saw what I had always seen in her children who came to my door. Someone who could change. Family isn't who shares your blood, Tyler. It's who chooses to stand by you, even when you've made mistakes. Real forgiveness takes real change. Are you ready for that kind of work? He nodded, tears in his eyes. Then we'll see what's possible. If you're watching this, tell me, what makes someone family to you?